Hello and welcome. I'm
Hello
Dr.
there.
Jamie Kunkle, and we got Dr. Janell Payne with us today, and this is Confronting the Complex, and we're gonna have another part to our series here, where we're gonna really just continue talking about ourselves this time, I guess. Talk about our practices specifically. So, for all you out there that may already know us, this is just more of a, little deeper dive into what we really think, about ourselves, perhaps. Well, maybe
Yeah,
we put on fronts about how we may think we think, but this is how we actually think, perhaps. But we'll see. We'll see what comes up with it. How are you doing today, Janelle?
I'm good. I'm good. It's weird to host on a Sat or on Sunday. See, I don't even know what
Oh
day it
yeah,
is.
I don't know what day it is either. I think it's
I mean,
Sunday.
I was like, okay, let's just do it. Like, we'll just roll with it. But I have to admit, like, it feels very different on a Sunday afternoon than it does on
Yes,
a, you know, yeah.
I know. And Friday morning, it's been my whole week. I've been working, and it's kind of just, oh, it's another thing I got to do before the weekend. And
Yes.
now I'm supposedly rested, but I feel still kind of tired. So.
After you planted your Asian pear tree.
Oh, I was very excited about that. I got an Asian pear tree finally. I was like been wanting one of those. I have one other pear tree. I think it's like a Bartlett pear, but it didn't really even what flowered. But then we had a terrible storm last year, and so I lost my whole
Oh.
crop. So I was
Is
like,
this
I want
pretty
another
big?
pear.
Like, do you anticipate that it'll bear fruit in the
Oh,
next?
once it does bear fruit, well, it may or may not this year, maybe in a couple
Okay.
years, but when it
Yeah.
does, it's going to be pretty big. So it can go up to a pound each, which is pretty extreme,
Yeah.
and they also last forever, unlike other pears. Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, really
Never seen a
exciting.
pear be a pound each.
I know I've never seen a pound pear. Maybe I just haven't bought a
Okay, you
pound
have
of
to
pear.
say one for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll save one. They'll last a little while, so I should be able to save you one. I think you can bake them. I used to do in Chinese medicine stuff. You'd put them in the oven and you put
Sure.
some cinnamon on them. When you have like a respiratory infection in the fall or something, it's like a good lung tonic. It's kind of a fun game. So I got that, and then I transplanted all my raspberries. So I have a bunch of raspberries because they were soaking in creosote, and I don't know. I just decided maybe that wasn't a good idea. The birds
Yeah.
have been having fun with it the last couple of years. I just haven't been over harvesting them. They were in a weird location that I didn't put
So,
the creosote there.
and I didn't anticipate that you did. I assumed that you were trying to save them from the creosote. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you have dirt under your fingernails?
I cut my fingernails
All right.
yesterday,
All
so
right.
no
I was
dirt
gonna
today.
say, how exciting. Like I love it when there's a little dirt under my fingernails. It means that I've gotten out. I get to enjoy working in the
Yes.
yard. Yeah.
That's how it was yesterday before I groomed myself for once.
Good grooming yourself. I appreciate that for the
Yeah,
podcast. When
exactly.
what?
Yeah, because you guys are all
Ungroomed.
looking, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes. The life of whatever you want to call this. Yeah, little mini
Yeah.
farming, it's kind of fun. I
Yeah.
just have like an acre of land. It's not really like too crazy. Although that's a lot of land to manage for like a couple people sometimes. But it's fun. I have an orchard. I'm building that orchard out. The chickens were in there and they made a mess, so I kicked them out. And now, I got good fertile soil and giant worms. I saw a worm like this big today. It was really cool.
Ooh,
So
that is cool.
anyway, yeah, that's
I'm
what I
so
do.
jealous.
Yeah, how was your Sunday, real quick?
Great. Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I went to open houses. I've had a mimosa already. I mean, I'm just kind of in relax mode. This is great.
Right on.
I
That's
know.
the weekend.
Yeah. I didn't get to
Yeah.
play in the dirt. That would have made it better. That would have
Yeah.
topped off my, yes, my
You
weekend.
play in your volcanic dirt, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
My
That's
volcanic
good.
dirt. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Up in
exactly.
up in Bend there. You can see in the background there's a little
Yes.
bit of
There's my high desert dirt right there. That's
yep.
not my backyard, but it's close.
It's
Close.
pretty close.
On the
Yeah.
same property. Yeah.
Yeah. You get some, pine back there and some, yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's something you can eat back there, but I'm always looking for something to eat back there.
No.
Anyway.
I know. Good. Well, if you find something, you let me know because right now it
Okay.
just feels like nothing worth
That's the high desert
eating.
for you.
That's the
Yeah.
high desert. Yeah. Has its other
Or
benefits
yeah, no, it totally. Yeah,
for
it
sure.
totally does. We'll talk about that sometime, actually. It's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, so so today we're going to talk about our practices, kind of what we do, maybe what we like wish we could do or want to do, or what we used to do. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We'll kind of just let it roll and let it happen the way it happens, as we usually do here. We don't really overly script things, at least not yet. I don't
Or
know that
script
there's
them at
really
all.
or script them at all. I mean,
Right.
kind of maybe last minute decide here's a topic, let's roll with it and see what happens. And that's the magic of it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Janelle doesn't know what's going to happen. We're just going
And so
to.
far, we haven't edited anything either that I'm aware of, and who knows?
No, I'm
My,
against editing. No, I
I
just
know.
I just don't have
Depends on
time
what we
for it.
say, and we might be for editing.
Yeah, we
Depends
may
on how many mimosas I
eventually
have.
be for editing. Yeah, or
Yeah,
we'll hire a person for editing, or maybe
for sure.
they'll just want to volunteer their precious time for editing. No, I'm kidding. But anybody out there, please let me know.
Yeah,
Anyway.
let us know.
All right, Janelle, why don't you kick it off
Um,
here
you're
if you
gonna,
don't mind? And or do you
sure.
want me to kick it off? Either way.
No, I'll
Flip a
go,
coin.
but and then I'm gonna like want to add to my answer because after I hear your answer, because I'm gonna go, oh yeah, what he said, So
That's fine. It can be a back and forth.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can have it be a back and forth. Let me see. I've been in practice. This is going on my 8th year. I kind of started treating and immediately felt, like how do I want to say this? I really enjoyed treating patients with PANDAS PANS. Like I would say, like I had my very first patient. I was like, you know what? This is really compelling work, really fulfilling work, super satisfying to see these kiddos get better. Nothing brought me greater joy. I used to lay awake at night and think, oh, I just so hope I can help these kiddos,
Mm.
and so I was really passionately driven to treating PANDAS PANS. And I still do that. That's probably the focus of my practice. I know we throw that terminology around a lot, complex chronic illness. We treat a lot of
Mhm.
complex chronic illness. I treat adults as well. And that's also fulfilling to me. Um, I would say like slowly my practice, I want to say it's been morphing, but really it's been more dialing down into patients with probably chronic infections and chronic mold. If I like really, um, so that's kind of my practice in a nutshell. How about yours?
Sure. Well, in some ways, I wasn't sure I would be where I am, but I am where I am, and I like where I am. So, but
Yeah,
I've been practicing now for 13, almost 13 years, which is pretty crazy to think about because I
yeah,
can't imagine. Ever since like I hit 10 double digits, I stopped counting really, but I had to think about it. But when I started off, I I was originally an acupuncturist. So I guess I still am. I just don't do as much acupuncture. So originally I was doing a lot more procedural work and body work type stuff, and it was kind of a cool introduction. I just thought there was a lot of value in that, especially in this culture. I think we really need a lot of physical support and body support, where a lot of
yeah.
times too much up here in the old head, the old coconut, uh, and I thought that was a good way to kind of bring people into that. And, maybe I thought I probably could benefit from that myself even. So it was kind of a cool way for me to use my hands rather than just overthink things all the time. And it was really cool. So that was a great way to like kind of get into practicing with people who were suffering from a lot of things that weren't maybe as easily dealt with in terms of conventional practices and heady things as mentioned. It was like stuff of the body. So maybe chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, all those kind of things. So it's kind of cool. So I like that. And then gut issues and all that kind of thing. Everything goes along with like having a lot of unmanaged stress in your life or whatever it may be, living too much in fight or flight, freeze mode or whatever that may be. So that was kind of a cool intro. So I started off doing that and I did a lot of like adjustments and like I always liked, I spent so much extra time learning how to do manipulative therapies for people too, because it made them feel so much better and always made me feel a lot
Sure
better
does.
too.
Same.
So it was great, a great intro. And then I joined a practice that kind of was working with kids and working with complex illnesses, and I kind of came in doing some of that same stuff, except now I started from maybe just necessity started to use my head a little more, having to kind of talk to these people and
We can make some jokes on that later.
yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, it was hands, heart, head. It was in that order for a while. Uh, feel it out. But now I'm having to really parcel out some complex stuff with these people. And so I realized I had a lot of really good training in like recognizing how to do that, at least between my Chinese medicine training kind of more of a holistic model, kind of more of a whole person model, kind of a getting everything into balance kind of perspective. And so I kind of just went with that. In the naturopathic medicine, of course, too, which you can look at our other podcasts. We talked about that extensively as well. And just kind of figured, yeah, maybe, maybe I'm okay at, looking at this stuff. I don't know. So I started helping these people, and usually if you start helping one person, then somebody else comes, and before you know it, you have a bunch of people. And I started to learn more about how to manage those folks from one of my mentors there who was at the practice and from conferences and various other things like that. And so from there, I kind of just ended up becoming that. I moved again later and moved to Vermont for a while. It's like the land of Lyme, as I've mentioned.
Yeah.
So inevitably, I encountered a lot of tick-borne infection with people that didn't have a lot of resources and had to get really creative trying to treat them without a lot of resources outside of pharma. So I kind of had to get good at pharma too. So every time I've sort of moved locations or changed practices, which, was for various reasons, I kind of had to reinvent myself a little bit and kind of learn something new. And I just spent a lot of time learning and ended up, in California. And then I'm, of course, in Oregon now, but I'm still working out of California. So once I got to California, I was kind of like all complex all the time, a lot of Lyme,
How many
tick-borne
different
infection.
practices have you worked in?
It's a good question. Let me count. Huh.
Huh.
Let's see. So one, two, three, four. Okay, five, six.
Six. Has GMA been your longest standing?
Yeah, probably.
Seems like it is. Like you've been
Yeah.
there for as long as I've known you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've been with Gordon Medical Associates since 2021. And
Okay.
yeah, that's the longest I've ever been with any group for various reasons. I think for to their credit, I mean they make it an easier place to work and much more fulfilling place to work than a lot of other businesses I've worked for, unfortunately. So no offense out there, but it just is nice to have people that are really supportive and we learn together and we learn so much together. And to me, it's like I love being in groups for that reason. I can not have to continue to reinvent myself, but just like better myself and just keep getting, at a higher level. And that practice has cultivated that aspect of my.
In your previous practices that you had joined, did other people also treat complex chronic illness, or were you kind of that one that did
No.
it?
Well,
Okay.
yes and no.
Okay. So it was
There,
hard
there
to
was
like bounce ideas off of them then.
Yeah, there was the one practice that did actually the one that was family medicine, but
Okay.
she was a pediatrician. She treated more the kids. I didn't really get a ton of like, how to manage the complex adult care and stuff like that. I got a little bit of the kids, which was cool. And I still, am very grateful for that
Yeah.
information and that foundation kind of working at that family medicine practice. I was seeing, and we'll talk about this sometime too, but I was seeing the sort of full spectrum of how these illnesses manifest across a family line. So I was seeing the kids and then
Yes.
I was seeing the parents and I was mostly like managing the parents, but I would see the kids and I would do some work with them. I'd do some like, body work with them or maybe some acupuncture occasionally, or I would do some herbs with them or something. And it was really cool. So I did get some mentorship there. And there was that aspect, but as far as like being able to really core manage on my own, like Lyme and complex illnesses, I had to really kind of learn that with through a lot of time and little snippets of people and little mentors here and there. And it was a process to really get it down. I
Did
have
you
to
did
say.
you kind of have like mentors that were like in-house that you can mentor, or did you have to like seek out your mentorships?
More often than not, I would have to kind of seek out a little bit, but that's why I said I'd get like a little bit from this person and a little bit from that person kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because most people are kind of, yeah, I was never the person who's gonna be like, hey, can I just like follow you around for a while? I should have been that person because it probably would have helped, like kind of a traditional apprenticeship type situations. And actually, places like iLabs have those. I believe they have a
Yeah,
physician
they do.
mentorship program now, which is wonderful. And the people that volunteer for that, I really thank you. I mean, that's really cool that they allow that. And I would love to even give back to that someday, just because I think it's a wonderful idea for young docs kind of coming out into the field, especially if they have interest in this type of stuff. Like I've had residents before, I've trained residents before, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And what they do with it is up to them at that point. They might be like, "Oh, chronic illness, oh, let me out of here." But when they see it though, even if they don't want to treat it, they know where and who to send to figure it out. So
But once you
having
see it, you can't unsee it.
that's
That's the
true.
problem.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
problem.
Well,
We'll
it's
get more on that later. Oh,
yeah. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's true. And those folks will then always have that with them. Of course, they'll be like, "Oh, I can see this perspective in this person. Maybe they have a chronic infection. I didn't really, think about chronic infections so much when I was in medical school. We would just hear about some stuff here and there, but nobody was ever like, oh, Lyme disease or oh,
right.
reactivated mono or something or
I don't know about you, but in school, I always got the hardest cases, right? And I remember like voicing it in my like the clinic room one time, and I said, do I get two really or three really challenging patients that I have to read years and years of medical records, and they got strep throat or they got, like I was like, what gives? And they were like, well, it doesn't rattle you. And I was like, well, I appreciate that. It's probably some age, right? Like I can
right.
sit with the patient and they can have a really complex history and I don't get rattled. Even in school, you just start at the beginning, right? And you have to start somewhere. So I usually start with the foundations of health. But like, same
Yeah.
thing, right? It can really rattle some people. It can overwhelm them.
It's
Maybe,
easy to overwhelm, yeah. And I've
yeah,
known folks too, and I have all the respect for them, but they just sort of choose like, hey, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not seeing these people. And that's
yeah,
completely fine. I think that anybody who can say, I am not the best person for this, but
right.
here go in this direction and see this person that's fine that's like how the
That's what I
medical
do,
system really
right?
works and that's how it's supposed to work actually we're supposed to all have enough training to understand when we need to punt and when we can actually jump into the pool ourselves and take care of it if we don't have the training and the whatever you want to call it competence or something like that to be able to do it then that's when we run into trouble especially if we think that we can for me, I've always felt like, on that front, I think that like ego and all that stuff that people always throw around, like I was never really much of like a all about me ego person. I was kind of more like, how can I help this person better? How can I help these people better? How
Yeah.
can I really like learn to be the best version of myself here? And that can also lead to unhealthy behavior sometimes, like self-critiquing and stuff like that. But I
Yeah, but
learned to kind of deal with that.
would you say like even my mentors in the field, like they were very humble, right? I
They
feel
were,
like
yeah,
if you are treating complex chronic illness, it you get a dose of humble pie
you
pretty
do.
frequently, right? Like you don't, not every case is a win. Not every case is, and it's really the patient that does the work. So we don't even get the credit for that, right? Like, because they're the ones doing the work. And
Yeah.
so I feel like just everything we do about it, you can't have much of an ego in it. It's not the right field for you if you have
Yeah.
a ego.
Yeah, because I've known people that are kind of like that, and I don't know how they still manage to operate in the field, but I've met a few of them, and it's been kind of strange to watch. And
Right.
sometimes they've unfortunately taken advantage of my patients, or they've charged them, unethically in different ways. And it's like, yeah, there's some stuff like that out there where people are like, oh, I see a business in chronic illness, and therefore I'm going to
Right.
create this business and I'm just gonna sort of be like the dude and I'm gonna be the one figuring out all these complex cases and making these people better but it's kind of more like superficial like I'm a cool dude who is
Yeah.
tapping into a market of desperate people and I'm gonna take all their money. I've seen that a few times. I'd hate to say it but I have and
Yeah, I guess I have two. It's very protocol driven. And to me, it
yeah.
screams it's more obvious, right? Like when that's
Yeah,
the case.
people figure it out pretty quickly, even if they don't figure it out at first. And it's
Right.
just, they might be down, $10,000 by the time they figure it out, but
Yeah.
it is a thing. So anyway, I'm not naming names, so don't jump to conclusions out there. But um,
But if you have a guilty conscience, I mean,
yeah,
saying
maybe it's you. Look
maybe
in the
it's
mirror.
maybe it's you.
But no, the
Reevaluate.
majority of people, to be fair,
Absolutely. Yes.
at iLads and masterminds and ICI and all these different places I frequent in the complex chronic illness
Yeah.
world, are all very humble people. They're very genuine people. They're willing to help you. Like you email them and they'll email you back. They'll call
Yeah.
you on the cell phone or something. Like they all just want the same thing you want. We just all want a better world where these people aren't so sick and they're not marginalized and they're actually taken care of properly. And
Yeah.
anybody who's like in the game is going to be like, yeah, dude, you're my buddy, you're my partner. We're not competing.
Right. Right. No, I so appreciate that. I feel like, yeah, that's great. So I'm curious, like you mentioned that like you didn't really necessarily see yourself here, right? Your practice has kind of evolved over time. Where do
Yeah.
you see yourself in, like, this is such a cliche question. You're not on an interview. I guess you kind of are, but where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Like, what do you see? Do you see your practice evolving?
I mean, my practice always is evolving, so I can't even always see exactly where I'm going to be in 5 to 10 years because 5 years ago, I was in a completely different place than I am now. I
Right.
was working with the same types of folks, but I was doing different things. I was looking for different things. I knew less than I know now, and every year I learn more. I mean, the structure function stuff, kind of full circle, I talked about before, all these newer concepts of when the structural system starts to fail and that affects the regulation of the person. And it may have started with an infection or COVID or something else crazy, but now it actually is like a physical, structure function issue. Like those things I
Right.
didn't know about like 5 years ago as much. I mean, I knew maybe some superficial ideas. And as I said, I started working structurally with people, but that kind of came a little bit later. So anyway, to answer your question, which is, hard question to answer, I see myself probably evolving further and working still with similar folks, but maybe learning more nuanced ways or maybe hopefully learning some easements in the process because like right now I've been learning a ton about sort of the mental and spiritual elements of one's illness and where their stuck points are. Because this is something I think I've been weak on in the past because I'm not like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a whatever, a counselor or anything. I'm not any of those things. But I'm understanding that it's a very important part of the conversation, just the same way as the structural stuff was an important part of the conversation before. So it's never not there. It just is
Right.
like getting better at understanding how to work with it effectively and like where people get stuck in, autonomic dysregulation, dysautonomia, and different things like this,
Right.
where their traumas sort of, fit into get, sort of forced into the picture and where those things are affecting their ability to heal and it's affecting their sensitivities and other things like this. And we just put like all these other names to it, but I'd really hope to be better at naming that early for people and giving them maybe some resources to kind of try to cut a little bit of that out earlier before you're like, oh, we did all this stuff and it turns out you need to go work over here instead. Instead,
Yeah.
it's like, how can we integrate that in the beginning so that we don't have to do quite as much other stuff or quite as much trial and erroring on these types of situations. So that's just
Yeah.
one thing I would have to say that I think I'll probably be hopefully better at in 5 years.
Yeah. Do you still see yourself in clinical practice?
Um, yeah, I mean that's the other side of the question. Yes, definitely. I mean, I think so. It would take a lot of circumstances for that not to be the case. I think I mentioned on a previous podcast we did. I was like, oh, maybe if I didn't have a license, I'd probably not be doing it. I was like, no, don't take that away from me. Um, but that would be, the biggest reason I think, unless I sort of fell into something else that was very meaningful and still probably helping in a way that I thought was meaningful. Um, there's always possibilities that those opportunities present themselves in this life. You keep an open sort of perspective in mind on the whole thing. You may end up somewhere that you don't expect yourself to end up. I've had
Yeah.
that happen many times in my life, so I have no idea.
Yeah. How do you experience, like, have you experienced burnout? And what have you done if you haven't? Fantastic. And what have you done to thwart that?
I've been pretty close before, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely. I've been there. And sometimes even in the midst of normal everyday practice, there'll be a month or 2 months that are just really hard. Uh, People are really struggling. There's a whole lot of them. You see
Right.
5 of them in a row in a day that are really, really struggling, and it does start to wear on you. So, those things have happened. Self-care is key. It's just finding the right way to self-care, which I think has been a challenge for me as I've been exploring it. And one thing, can't work too much. I got to cut myself off at some point, even
Yeah,
in the evening, in the week, in the day. If I didn't get to all my messages, sorry guys, I'm not gonna get to them because I got to go and regenerate my battery. Try to be the bunny going boom, 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 but that bunny
right.
starts to
The
boom,
Energizer
boom.
Bunny. Yes.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
what if I pay
That's a
royalties
good
to that guy
analogy. Yeah.
now? But I've done a lot of other work too, kind of like in my own sort of mental and spiritual health. I'm sort of working on that, and I think that really makes a big difference because these things have to mean something to you. When you're working, it can't just be like a hard job that you got to do. It's got to be something that you really do
Right.
enjoy. And if you're feeling like you're not enjoying it, you have to really think about whether it's what you should be continuing to do, or is there some way that you can sort of reframe it or sort of think about it in a different kind of way? Because, it's mindset too. A lot of it
Right.
really is. And so there's a lot of work in the mind that you have to do here, at least. I
Yeah.
don't know if everybody else has to. Maybe some people just don't, but I felt like I have had to.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
And the body. Don't forget the body. Yeah,
Don't forget the body.
don't
Yeah.
forget the body. It's good to be active and get outside. I like having my little mini farm thing out there. I like to have some property. I like to have some very basic things so that I have other ways to use my brain, other ways to use my body, and not just like always do that one thing. If I just live that one thing and I'm always doing that one thing, I'm just gonna get burnt out. I'm gonna get jaded. I'm gonna get tired of it. I'm just gonna, it's not the way my brain rolls. I need to be able to like
Yeah.
switch things up a little bit. So that's why
Even
learning is
cleaning
great too.
house is a break for me.
Yeah, it
I'm like,
is.
I just want to like sweep my floors. I just want to mop. I just want to move my body, like yeah.
Makes a difference. I have a
I
dog.
know
I chase my dog around.
I want to chase the dog around,
Chase the
walk
dog.
BLM with my friends and the dogs, and
Exactly.
it's very rejuvenating.
Yeah, friends, friendships, community, socialization, all of
Yeah.
it. It's not always easy to find. I mean, you could get very isolated on this whole virtual experience.
Yeah.
It could feel isolating sometimes, and you could just sit in your office all day and then you could go out of your office and go to sleep and come back in your office the next
I've
day.
done that. I've done that way too much, you
Sleep in
know.
your office. I got a couch back there.
I actually have a guest bed in my office. So
Oh, there you
that's
go.
why,
See,
hence the background.
it's nice. Yeah, I could live in here if I had to. I escape out the back window like I do in the morning so I don't wake my
Right.
dog up. It's all good.
Yeah. I know the long hours are real, and as far as like I know we've talked about this before, but like pre-COVID, post-COVID, during COVID, like how did that change your practice or did it? Maybe it didn't, but
Oh, COVID. Yeah, COVID, it did a lot of interesting things. For one, I don't think I'd be doing quite so much virtual now. It goes without saying. I wouldn't be doing quite so much virtual now if it wasn't for COVID. I don't even think I'd be working where I'm working if it wasn't for COVID because I wasn't going to be like, oh yeah, with all due respect, if I move to the North Bay where my practice is, I am not going to be able to have this land or other things like that because there's just no way that that is available to me. Like
right.
I don't make that much money, unfortunately. Um, so so it gave me the opportunity to like one get out of California because I kind of wanted to do that. Sorry, California. I like
How long
California
did
in
you
so
live
many
in
ways.
California?
About three
Okay.
years.
Okay.
Yeah, about 3 years. Yeah. But I still go down there all the time, so it's like I was just in California last week. I'll be there in 2 weeks. So it's kind of how I still roll. But it's not a big deal to do that if I'm not doing it all the time. And I sometimes do it all the time, but I don't, try to. But yeah, so COVID changed a lot of things, I suppose. Things got really charged politically too, and narratives and all these things, and that was really frustrating for a number of reasons because I always already felt like I was sort of operating a little bit in a fringe because we all know how the politics of Lyme disease, for example,
Right.
kind of makes it challenging sometimes to treat, to get diagnostics. Like the testing is pretty terrible. It's like super archaic. Like it needs to be updated, like in the worst kind of way. So like I said, even when I was practicing in Vermont with people with little resources, I didn't really have a lot of resources, and I would have more resources if we were further along. So
Yes.
then, I was coming from that, and then COVID happened. And we were learning real time, like everybody else, with this novel virus, how to operate around it, how to treat people or support people. I guess I'm not allowed to call it treating. How to support people around COVID and keep them from going to the hospital, basically. And
Right.
so it became sort of this more like high stakes, kind of game. So whereas, when you have a chronic illness, it sucks, and most of the time, it's not pleasant for people. But there's a certain patience or space you have sometimes with it that, like, well, they're not going to get, they're not going to like go to the ER tomorrow, probably. Some of them might, but
Right.
most of the time that they weren't. So we kind of got into more of this like acute care sort of support for these
Yeah.
people.
Treating
And
symptoms, keeping people from going to the
yeah,
hospital. Yeah.
yeah,
I get it.
yeah. So it leveled up a little bit. It leveled us all up a little bit. I think that those of us that were in the trenches of it, because we had to kind of like really be on our game and
Yeah.
really be intent on keeping up with what's new and the information and everything like that.
Right.
And at the same time, navigating all the politics
All the
and
hot
the
button.
narratives that people were throwing out there. Like the media
Right.
didn't have any idea what they were talking about. Like they just were throwing out like random stuff all the time, and we were all supposed to just sort of like, oh yeah, I believe that. But then it's like, well, that's not been my experience working with this firsthand, but I'm not allowed to
Right.
talk about
Right.
that. So
Exactly.
COVID, I don't know if you wanted me to go that deep into COVID, but
I did.
COVID
Yeah.
really did change a lot. And I think maybe we'll do a podcast sometime about the you know, working through our COVID traumas together. But
Yeah. I know.
perhaps
It
we'll
would,
all do that because all of us need to do it anyway as a country. We all need to kind of talk about our COVID traumas. We all have
yeah.
them. There's one or the other. I guess some people did okay, but most people there was some kind of something there. Uh, so anyway, that's my COVID story for now. I'm sticking to
Okay.
it.
So clearly your practice changed a little bit, morphed, and so now I know that like you talked to me a lot about, the spirituality and kind of going that more that route. Maybe not spirituality. Maybe that's the wrong term. How would you term it?
Well, I throw that term around, but that's something I don't have a clear definition of. I think some people can say my spiritual practice is dot dot dot, and I'm not quite there yet with that. I'd say, but I think that I'm recognizing that the mind, body, and the spirit as sort of a trifecta there needs to be balanced in this life, and there's a lot of things that bring spirit to this to our experiences, and yeah, I suppose we bring spirit to experiences. Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen there,
Right.
that I need to kind of recognize. Like I grew up more, well, I grew up more Christian. I mean, I really did. I lived in Israel for 5 years. I mean, I wasn't Jewish. I just lived there, but it was lived in the Holy Land. I saw Jerusalem. I saw
Mhm.
Bethlehem. I saw all of it firsthand. I
Oh,
also
I'm
saw the people
excited.
fighting over it.
Right.
The three religions, the great three Judeo-Christian religions, just fighting and fighting and fighting. So I saw all of it, and I don't know. At some point, I probably became a little resentful of it because I just got mad at people, like humans. I got mad at like human behavior. And that was probably one reason that I kind of pushed away from it a little bit. But it's still part of me, I guess. I mean, my understanding of some spiritual ideas comes from that. So, I've probably built off that to some degree. But I'm really all about, I don't know, my current practice is really more about like connecting with, reconnecting with nature and natural process and with my ancestry and different things like this. I'm exploring like ancestral blockages that are with me and stuff like that, or things that happened with my father and his father and her mother and their father, and trying to break those cycles, trying to recreate, trying to start anew for my children and their children, hopefully, and all that kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun stuff that I'm working on, but I'll talk more about it sometime because I'm still sort of like
I
figuring
feel
out
like,
how I can talk about it.
and that's its own podcast, right? Like
It really is.
like,
Yeah.
but it's an important part of like, like what's in your future? What sparks your interest? What are you passionate about?
Yeah, and that's part of it. It's like me trying to reconnect with my spirituality and then like figuring out how I can kind of use that in a way that's not like offensive to people to help them reconnect with their spiritual health, their spiritual
Right.
wellness. And that's always kind of a hot button thing, I think, because like I don't know, our society has gotten it used to be very like, oh, we're mostly Christian people and it's cool. In God we trust. It's on our money, right? So that must mean it's, okay, right? It's gotten a little bit more we're not allowed
Divided,
to really talk
politicized.
about it. Yeah.
Like,
And
well,
then
even
what are we
amongst
supposed to
Christians, I
believe
feel like
then?
they're divided. Christians
Yeah.
are divided, non-Christians are
Oh
divided.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
what can't we
totally.
argue about? Like,
Right. There's
let me
always something to
find
argue about. Yeah,
all of a sudden, nobody's
instead
doing
of
it
like
right.
what we all sort of in agreement with, it's kind of like the few things we're in disagreement with. Because
Yeah,
it seems like what I learned very quickly is that there's more that unites us in all religions and all spirituality than there is that disconnects us. There's just these like hang up points that
yeah,
people get really stuck on. And it really makes it very difficult for people to get along. And people fought wars over this stuff. Talk about letting go of your ancestral trauma. It's easier said than done, by the way, but like people are still fighting wars over this stuff because of what happened, thousands of years ago sometimes.
there's some patterns, definite
Yeah.
patterns. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like we got to eventually be better than that as humans. Like we got to be better than that. Okay? Like
yeah.
and there's plenty of whatever got plenty of something to go around. Plenty of the essence of spirituality to go around. There's plenty of it to go around for everybody. It's for everybody. It's not just for some people and oh your way of thinking about it's wrong. Yeah, it drives me crazy. So that was kind of the hard part of spirituality. But we'll talk more about this in a future podcast for sure because I think it's a really important topic and I'd love to talk to you about
It is,
your
and like
experiences
something
too.
that my pastor says frequently, which it's something that it just stuck with me, like, and I think he said it a couple of years ago, but he's like, look, there's primary issues and then there's secondary issues. And the majority of what we argue about, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously, the majority of what we're arguing about are all secondary issues, right?
Right,
They're not what we should be arguing about. This is not a point of division for us
right.
because, and so I appreciated that. I just am like, oh, that is, you know, and I was doing some work, at one point, during like some struggles that our family was having, with these chronic illnesses and
Hmm.
during COVID, right? So it was this
Yeah.
perfect storm, right? During all that. And, I was probably close to burnout and all that, but I was doing it was a Bible study. It was a book that somebody had written basically on having emotional maturity, right?
Hmm.
Emotional something about Christian emotional maturity, that sort of thing. And it said to circle and talk about a rabbit trail. Now I'm going down a rabbit trail.
That's
But
okay.
it said to like write down like the biggest issues in your life, right? And so I wrote them all down. And it was like none of these issues are of this world, right? Like none of these people are your enemy. None of these issues are really, like what is the root of all that? And I was like, oh, like that was pretty powerful too. Like it's not the people. It's not, like I'm having a challenging relationship with so and so, or I'm having this is really challenging me. It was like, well, that's a symptom. That's not the root of things. And that was pretty impactful too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I,
no.
de- I derail.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And
No,
and I just
we'll be
thought, wow, it just really changed my perspective on just like, like especially when I see things that are so divisive and things can make me really frustrated and angry and
sure.
like I might, want to build up some animosity or resentment. And I'm like,
Mm,
that's not of they're not my enemy,
right,
That person
right,
is not my enemy, you know.
right. Yeah, no,
We have
totally.
different thoughts, but they're not my enemy. So anyway,
In the
it's
process of
changed me.
disagreeing with somebody or like wanting to argue an idea, we seem to want to like attack
Yeah,
the
yeah,
people instead. Like it's misdirection or it's like
totally
I don't know.
misdirect.
It's strange and it kind of seems like that like our society is kind of like sort of okay with that. It's like
Right.
politicians like to make it worse. Like they like to really accentuate the tribalism, like it's us versus them kind of thing. It's black
Yes.
and white, us versus them, because that's how they get people out there because it makes people afraid, it makes people angry, and then people vote a little more black and
Right.
white as a
And
result.
like when I'm scrolling Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you're liking a comment, like 'cause I've done it to where I'm like, oh, I might feel like that, like, and maybe somebody insulted somebody else, or they,
Right, right, right.
engaged in some sort of like derogatory behavior. And I might like it, but I go and I unlike it because I'm like, you know what? Don't support that. You can't support that.
Yeah,
You might. cerebrally think, agree with them, but like the name calling, the attacks, like you don't go there. Like
Yeah.
just like,
I
and
acknowledge my automatic thinking, and then sometimes it's not like what I really want. But I
right,
try not to be
right,
reactive if I can help it. I mean, it's not
exactly.
to say we haven't all slipped because we're all humans, so every one of us will some point kind of let that reactivity sort of get the best of us. But for the most part, stop, think, don't react.
Right. Like, unlike, that's the beauty of an unlike button. You can push that
Yes,
button again and it unlikes that comment. And then you just kind of, all right, like Janelle, don't be so quick with, with like in a comment,
exactly.
like anyway. Yeah.
So yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
we've really
important
digressed.
stuff. No, we kind of digressed a little bit, but that's okay. I told you we don't script this stuff, so it kind of just goes
It just
wherever it
goes.
goes. So it's all good. But
Right.
bringing it back because you've asked me a lot of questions about my practice. I would
Okay.
like to ask you, where do you see your practice in, let's say
Yeah.
5 years. Why not? Why?
five
Maybe
years. Oh,
2 years. I don't know.
that's a good question. This has been a season of change for me. It has really been like my mind is like, in a lot of different directions. All good. Like I actually, and I never used to like change before, right? They say change is good, transition is hell, right?
Hmm.
I used to not like seasons of the unknown, and I'm learning to kind of embrace that. Like, aren't they all unknown? Like if we really think about it, aren't they all unknown? Um, I would say so during COVID, I scaled back my practice because, initially I was 4 days a week. I still came in and worked on Friday as well. I had 3 employees at the time. Like I was pretty busy, right? Like my practice was busy. And COVID happened and I found myself like working 16-hour days. Now I'm answering the phones and I'm sending the faxes and I'm still seeing patients and I'm cleaning in between them, and like, especially during that weird time when we didn't know what was what and lots of people were staying at home and, I'm trying to
Hmm.
run my own credit card machine and I'm trying to figure stuff out, right? And I didn't do a very good job. I would have fired myself over and over again. Um, but at the same time, now I'm kind of in that scaled back version still. Like I work 3 days a week and really probably closer to two and a half of seeing patients. And then and then I'm working probably another day and a half as admin, right? Like, so I'm still working a 4-day week. I'm just compacting my days of seeing patients. And I've almost gotten to where like I don't want to scale back up, right? I don't want to get big again. And not that I was ever big, you know what I mean? But like I don't want my practice to grow like
Hmm.
that again. Um and add new patients like I was on that scale. And I don't mind. So we've really slowed that roll, which I really appreciate that we've kind of, kept that to a manageable level. Um and mainly because days that I see patients, I sit in a chair for 10 hours a day. And our appointments are long. It is not uncommon if I get up 3 times in the day and the most exercise I get is a sprint to the back bathroom and come back. And the other day I
Oh
marched down the
yeah, the
hall
old
at the
bathrooms.
office. Yeah, and the MA for another doctor was like, "What are you doing?" Kind of like, and I was like, "I'm just walking the halls, like where am I supposed to go?" He's looking at me like I'm half crazy, but anyway, but because I just need to move my legs. So I sprint down the hall and I sprint. Um, anyway, I walk expediently down the hall and back. And that's my exercise. And I realize that that's not sustainable. And that's why I don't want to work 4 and 5 days a week because that's all I do in a day,
Yeah.
right? And then my Saturday and Sunday go too quickly and it's just not that's not living.
I'll
So,
tell you what I try to do to
okay, tell me.
to help that, but it just doesn't always work. Okay, one, I
Okay.
have a standing desk. I'm just sitting right now because it's easier. Because when I'm
Yep.
standing, I tend to like propel myself into the camera, like I'm headbutting you, and
I could
it's
try that
easier
too.
for my cerebellum or whatever. I don't know
Okay.
if I'm sitting for recording purposes. So a standing desk makes a difference. I can kind of do, if I'm on a phone call, they don't need to see me. I can kind of just do whatever and move around. It's kind of cool. And
Yeah.
then at lunchtime, I usually will lift some weights and do some stuff for about like 30 minutes every day and kind of just get all the major muscle groups activated a little bit. So
Good.
by the end of my day, when I have to maybe go out and do chores and other things, then I'm usually running after the dog and trying to move around a lot more. And so I've just tried to take opportunities. And on the weekend, I sometimes just beat the heck out of myself by doing too much physically because I'm like, I
Absolutely.
got all this energy, I need to let go of it.
I need a week's worth of energy out today.
I know, and it's like, that I'm asking my wife, could you like, adjust my back or my neck hurts.
Yes.
I know, the whiny husband. It's like,
No, I don't think that's whiny. I think that's
yeah.
surviving. Yes.
But I try. Yeah, no, but the
So
the standing desk made a big difference though,
I love
too.
the standing desk, and I actually have a standing desk, but like I don't like to stand. I want to walk. So my desk is actually tall enough and wide enough. It's a treadmill desk. So then I'm like, is it
Oh, treadmill desk. I
yes,
didn't
and only since the advent of AI can I actually, because you can't type and walk on a treadmill, right?
Right, you could
That
talk though.
right? I can talk. I can talk. I can talk and walk. And anyway, so I'm now kind of entertaining the idea of getting a treadmill for under my desk. If it's quiet, now I have to find quiet treadmill, right? Because I also
Right.
don't want the noise, you know. And hopefully it doesn't have that cloddy sound like clop, clop, clop every time you
Right,
step.
right, right.
So,
Thump,
because
thump,
that will
thump.
annoy me. And then
And
it
the
will,
AI starts to pick it up. It's like parentheses.
right,
Thump, thump, thump.
my Apple Watch, I see you're exercising. Oh, shut up, you know.
Way to go.
I'm trying to. No, I'm going to the bathroom.
Yes.
That's that's all I'm doing. So, um, anyway, so that I see that like I have to make some changes there, right? Like
Yeah.
my husband is a real estate broker, and I recently got licensed because I'm like,
Ooh,
like I can move. I am not
definitely
bound
get a
to
lot of
my
movement
computer
with
24/7. I
real
mean,
estate.
some, you still have to be in front of a computer and look stuff up and do
I
that.
suppose so. Yeah, you
But you
do. But
also,
you get out in the field and you can do some cool stuff. You can go
yeah,
climb some stairs or something.
like you stay here. I'm gonna do these stairs 3 more times.
Go to these stairs. You guys go do your thing. I'm gonna go up and
Right.
down for a bit.
Right. And I don't have the luxury of not working, right? Like that would be ideal if I could, if life could sustain on my 3 days of work, but it can't. So
Yeah, the three
I
day
do.
work week is one of those like dreams that I don't know if
Yeah,
it'll ever come true, but it sounds really cool, right?
it does
Like,
sound really cool. But
oh yeah. Imagine you could even have like a little break day in between. So you could do like Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday or something. So you could even have like
yeah,
Wednesday to like recollect or do errands or something. So by the time you
wouldn't
hit
that
the
be
weekend, you're
amazing?
like ready to roll. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that, and partly, the real estate thing it's been kind of fun. It's actually just been fun, and everyone says, oh, real estate's really stressful. I used to sell real estate. Number one, it's not that stressful. Like, the same weekend somebody was telling me that I was sending a patient to the ER suspecting she had a blood clot, right?
Right.
And so like, let's compare stressors, right? Like, is that stressful to me, or is a potential deal falling through stressful? Like, sure, that would be stressful, but there's some perspective there, right?
Right.
And anyway, it's just
Well,
fun,
I don't
go
know.
back to
Yeah,
what I
we've
know. What'd you say?
we've all entertained the possibilities or thoughts of like I don't know. What do you want to call it? Moonlighting? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like
moonlighting.
is there
Yeah,
something you can do on the side to kind of like calm things a
right.
little bit and then keep it exciting, you know? I know
Just do
employers
something
get
fun.
really upset about that. When you're not employed, it's easier because you can do whatever the heck you want.
Well, the advantage, like I couldn't sell real estate, right? I couldn't even do that
Yeah.
with being, in the clinic steady for 3 days. But because my husband can field all the phone calls, right?
Oh
That's the only
yeah.
way that works. Because either one, you have to be kind of attached to your phone, and you kind of, you're kind of on call all the
Yeah,
time, right?
that's true.
That's another thing. People try to talk you out of stuff like, oh, you'll be on call all the time. I was like, I already am.
Right.
It's different now. Instead of triaging, I'm triaging, different triage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Feels
No,
light-hearted triage.
lighthearted triage. I like it.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So, I mean, I see you're, evolving or considering possibilities at the very least,
Yeah.
which is
And I guess if I really, like, if I could really pick and choose, like, what I wanted for, like, where my career would end up, is I would love to work, as crazy as this sounds, like, because I know we talked about working for an institution, right? But I would love to work for either a local hospital or a hospital in, like a regional hospital, in a neuroimmune department to where I have better access to care coordination. Because right
sure.
now, a huge part of my job is care coordination, and it literally takes a day. like
Yeah.
a day of unpaid time where I'm just making calls, making calls, making calls, sending
Yeah.
referrals, getting this back, like trying to connect with another doctor who's also really busy and we're trying to coordinate care and it's challenging. And I would say like if I could work for an institution, I could help more people in that capacity with my information.
Yeah. I mean, we need people in systems working from the inside, so to speak, that maybe could help
Yeah,
those systems along. Because I mean, we've said it before. I've said it before. Folks that are in systems, even if they're a product of said system and not necessarily doing exactly what you think they should be doing, because maybe you do things differently than they do.
right.
You know, they're still part of a system and they're probably doing pretty well in many other ways. Now, I think though the challenge I have to those folks would be, can you challenge the system who's giving you your bread and butter? I don't
Right.
know. That's a
I
hard
don't
one.
know either. And like it sounds like a glorified thing, but I'm like, how can I best help these patients with PANDAS pants? Right? Like,
Well, and that's the other part of it is that you don't have to necessarily think I'm going to change the system, but you could also just be like, can I be a part of a team or something that is helping these people that I care so much about
yeah,
helping? Because that's
exactly.
okay too.
Yes,
It doesn't have to be more than that. It can be simply that, and that's fine.
right.
So I
And
get it.
then and then as if my squirrel brain wasn't fulfilled enough, right? Like I during the tail end of COVID, I started like having more like semaglutide appointments or
Oh
tirzepatide,
yeah.
like the medically supervised weight loss. And part of that is just witnessing other practitioners like they have a pretty open and closed appointment, right? Like there's not a lot of triage and there's not, I mean, there's some, there's a little bit, but there's not a lot of, I don't know. I like it's almost like a mental break, right? It's
Oh yeah.
great. People typically feel pretty good on these medications
Hmm.
and they are successful on them. They, get reaching their goal weights and that's really satisfying too. And I would say because I tend to see the results faster than we do with patients with complex chronic illness, like for
Yeah.
me, it's almost exciting because I'm also not very patient, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to see people get results quicker. And so I've been really like embracing kind of this hormone and medical weight loss,
Oh yeah,
supervised
we'll talk
weight loss.
about those sometime actually, because I
Yeah.
think they're an
Yeah, yeah.
interesting area. Yeah, and I've done it all too. I mean, I dabble in everything if it's new
Yeah.
and exciting and interesting, and I've helped people with those medications and stuff too. So it's really cool. So I'd love to have a more detailed discussion on that. Because yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a minute since I've had a wellness visit, like what I'd call a wellness visit, where it's sort of like you're mostly well. Uh, Maybe you're not like optimally well,
Right.
but you're pretty well. And your system's going to respond to A, B, C, D, and E. And if you did get sick with something, I don't even have to do too much because the simple passage of time is going to fix you.
Yes. And aren't those sometimes I will get a spouse of somebody who comes in because they're just like, "Hey, can you evaluate my husband or my wife or my,
Mhm.
significant other?" And I'm like, "Sure," but like sometimes I'm like, "Oh, you're so well. I don't even quite know what to do." Like,
I know it's like all the usual things that I would
"Oh,
think about
you
right now are out the window. It's like, okay, how did I
yeah,
think 10 years ago? Okay,
right, right."
let's
I'm
go
like,
back to that.
I really have to go like, how can I even offer this person? Like they eat well, their digestion's good, their sleep is good, their, all those things that we work on. And, their relationships are good and they're just like wanting to optimize health. And I'm like, ah, that's exciting. And it's actually like exciting for me to think about. So anyway,
Yeah,
I've been enjoying
no,
that.
that's awesome. No, it's good to, it's like a full circle thing. But there's
Yeah,
so many different ways that we can help people in the world with our skill sets. And it yeah, there's no obligation to do anything really. It's like, you're doing it because you want to, but also
right.
longevity is sort of how I see it. Longevity is sort of key to this whole experience.
It is.
How can you could you see yourself, maybe this is a question, maybe it's rhetorical, but do you see yourself still practicing at age 70, for example?
Uh, Yes. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would
Yeah.
love to.
I
If
don't,
I'm
I,
if I'm well enough at 70 to practice, I have my brain clear enough. I mean, look at Eric Gordon, that dude's over 70. I won't say his exact age because it's somewhere in there.
yeah.
Sorry. But sharp dude.
Okay, so
Uh,
we haven't edited an episode yet, except for that one.
except that one.
We have no idea how old he is.
No, we have no idea. I won't tell you.
We have no decade of life to.
50. He's like 50.
Yeah, he's like
52.
52.
Tops.
I was going to say
Yeah.
52. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I mentored under Dr. Charles Ray Jones, right? And like
Oh
he was
yeah, that dude.
practicing until I think 95.
He was up there, wasn't he?
Yeah, like I think he passed away at 94, 95.
Yeah,
And
he was.
he was practicing like up to like 6 months before he passed. Like
Yeah,
that man, and I said, "So when are you going to retire?" And I'm just heckling him a little bit and he was like when there's no more sick children. And I was like, "I love this man." Like
I know.
and he was crass and he was all that, like he was, but also so kind-hearted, right? Like
Yeah.
he used to tease me that he was going to pass away in the night, right? Like when I was mentoring in his clinic and he was like, I'm probably not going to make it through the night. And he was like, but good thing you're here. And I was like, no, I'm here to learn from you. You can't and I'm like, you can't even joke about this. None of this is funny to me. Anyway, he was great, you know.
Yeah, no, it's cool to see those folks, the stories, because that's like what we could all hope for, I think. And when
Yeah.
people get that far too, they've sort of surpassed the burnout phase. They're just sort of, is
Oh
my
yeah.
physical body and my mental body going to be able to show up tomorrow? And
Sure. Well, and I'm talk about a distractor here. Charles Ray Jones, or excuse me, Dr. Charles Ray Jones, he had this round, he ended up living in his clinic, right? So he was working in this clinic, but in the back rooms he was living in them because his mobility was really poor. And
oh,
and so like he had a kitchenette in the back and then a front office and an exam room and a phlebotomy room. And then he had obviously a charts room, right, which was huge, right? Like his charts room was one of his biggest rooms, and it was just packed full of medical charts, right? It's which I kind of like. I get goosebumps like thinking of all the medical charts, right? I don't know. That's
yeah.
geeky. Is that geeky? Kind of.
Oh.
Anyway, so and then he had his, but then he had another room where he had a TV and like a round table, and that's where he spent the majority of his evening, right? And like
Hmm.
so he'd go from his office over to but like he would be reviewing new patient charts. And I would come in the next day, and I remember one day he had his hands on his head, and he was like, "I've read through this patient's full medical record." And this is a little boy, probably 18 months old, who was coming to him from Mexico. And he said, I've read through his records like, over and over and over. And he goes, and I'm missing something. And it just like, he racked his brain, right? And I was like, man, I love that. So, yes, do
Hmm.
I think I'll be practicing when I'm 70? I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
God willing.
Honestly. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
And I hope I figure out some kind of system like that too, where things are sort of like I have a way that I can do it that's as least hard on me as possible, but I can still be very effective at the same time.
exactly. Exactly.
That's what it
So
seems like he had achieved, and that was pretty impressive. Yeah,
I
definitely.
don't
And
even know how, right? Like
I don't
he's
know how either. I
made
think
of
people
tougher
just keep
stuff than
doing
me.
it. They keep doing it, and they figure out something, and that's
Yeah.
sometimes what keeps them going too.
He
It's
had a
like,
plaque on his
maybe
wall that was a plaque basically commemorating 50 years of medical service.
50 years.
50.
Jeez. Yeah, what did I say? I said 13. So I got
I said 8.
37 more years.
Uh-huh. No,
I'm
27.
37.
No, 37.
20,
Oh gosh, it is 30.
37.
Did I just do
Yeah.
bad math on
Oh,
air?
it
It's
happens.
Sunday. It's so Sunday.
It's Sunday.
Oh,
It's not math
Sunday.
time. Oh, I'm probably gonna
Yeah.
go help my kids with math. That's always fun. I don't know how they do math these days. I'm not used to the way in which they do math. I had to have my daughter's teacher teach me how they do math.
I know a
She,
lot of estimating now, right? A lot of it's
yeah,
like, let's estimate. And I was like, no, we can get an exact answer. Let's
I know, I know.
let's
I'm like,
work
I
this
don't
and
know
get
what's
the
going on.
exact answer and circle it and be so proud, not this estimating game.
Yeah,
Hard.
so I wish Sunday night wasn't for math. But fortunately, they're on spring break, so I take it back. There's no homework for tomorrow. So
No homework
yes.
for tomorrow. Yes. Are you doing anything fun for spring break?
I'm working unfortunately, but I will be off on Friday. We've done some cool stuff this weekend. We'll probably do some more cool stuff next weekend, but it's gonna be like 73 or something on Tuesday this week. So I'm gonna, right as I'm done with my last patient, I'm gonna jump out the window or something and go cut grass at least or something cool. I don't know.
Okay.
Just get out there and enjoy the weather. So it's spring. Everything's popping here. It's like all the flowering trees are just blowing up like crazy. Yeah, you should come to the valley or something in
I
the next
should come
couple
to
of
the
weeks because
valley.
you should just come and look at the flowers at least.
I
You
should.
know,
And I
if you're
want
into
to. I want
that.
to make it over to the coast at least sometime during
Yeah,
this, spring break and
yeah,
beyond. My
yeah. I
daughter
was just at the coast
home.
a few weeks ago too, and it was fun. Yeah, I love this time of year is like the best time of year in Central, well, not Central, whatever, Western Oregon, I guess we call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
at this point. I know I always think there's like the coast and then there's the valley and then there's like the east side. So
Right.
I always sort of think it's like somewhere in the center, but it's really not. No, not really.
Sure. Sure. No, I'm literally smack dab in the center.
Yeah,
And
you're in the Central Oregon.
we
That's
we
right.
are at the center.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're Central Oregon. The other side of the mountains is, yeah,
Yes.
right on the other side of the mountains.
Yeah.
I know
But
I
this
want to
is
make
my
it
favorite time of year.
I want to make it over there sometime too because
You
it is
should.
nice in the spring as well, I believe. You
We
guys
have a
get
guest bed. You're
some
welcome
green.
to
Oh, really? That's good to
welcome to
know.
stay. Yep.
I know. I got to go visit some people in Oregon in general. If I don't get my real ID or my passport, I might just be driving around.
You're gonna be driving
So
only.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
gonna be driving all the way down to California and back.
Yeah. When is that due? Like,
It's like May 7th.
yeah.
For all those out there, don't wait any longer like me. No,
If
that's
you want
that's what
to
we're gonna do this
fly.
week. We're gonna go get passport photos. That's right. So then I
Oh,
can
nice. Where are
go.
you gonna go?
Who knows? I might end up, yeah, maybe Mexico. Maybe I want to go to Ireland. I've never been to Ireland. That's kind of a cool thing.
Lovely.
And then go to I might go to Jamaica, but I haven't decided yet. But we'll see. I know I have my other business dude is there, so we'll see what happens. But
Sounds great.
um, I'll talk about that sometime. Anyway,
We
yeah.
could
So
podcast from Jamaica.
oh, that would be wonderful. I mean, really, that would be really, if I had a cool background at least, that would be what would be worth it.
I know. That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be, yeah, so we'll see. I guess I just have to get my passport first, then I can actually figure out where I might be
All right.
going.
Sounds like you have some stuff to do.
Yeah, I do. That's always the case. Always something to do. All right, well, I think we could wrap up for today, unless you have any final thoughts.
No, I was going to ask you your final thoughts on like, how you stave off the burnout, like what you're most looking forward to.
Oh
The
yeah.
the next few months, like what is your
Let's see, the next few months. Well, I'm going to a lot of conferences, at least it feels that way. I'm
yeah.
going to the CNDA, which is California Naturopathic Doctors Association conference, because they're kind of push for expanded scope of practice. So I want to kind of support them and see what they're up to.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go to Paul Anderson's cardiology conference at the end of May. So that's going to be fun.
I want
And
to
I
go to
may or may not hit up the maps, not the pediatric maps, but the psychedelic maps, but I haven't decided yet. That's going to be in Colorado in June. So I've wanted to visit Colorado too for whatever reason. I guess I like mountains and high desert apparently, but maybe I should just go over the mountain and visit Bend again.
just 2.5 hours away, right here.
Yeah, it's easy. And as long as there's not
No,
snow, which they hopefully less likely at the pass this time of year.
right. No, I think
Um, So yeah, so I'll be busy for the next couple months.
right.
I think that helps me avoid burnout in some ways because I get the springtime energy and I get to be really social. I always go in person. I'm not the kind of person that's going to virtual it in my office. No offense to anybody that does that, but
Yeah.
it just sometimes it's cheaper to do that too.
Yeah.
But believe me, it costs a lot. But I spend the extra money because I like the networking and I like the people and I like seeing people I haven't seen for a long time. Sometimes I'll run into classmates that I haven't seen for like 10 years. So
Yeah, it's
it's
definitely the best.
exciting. And so it reinvigorates my excitement. I'd ride the wave of spring, summer, and then kind of there. How about yourself? What's on the agenda for the
Mm.
next couple months here?
My
Springtime.
next couple months are really busy. I feel like every weekend is something. Um, but conferences, I have an inflammatory brains conference coming up. It's virtual. Unfortunately, that's the only option. Paul Anderson's,
Yeah.
I'm hoping to go to that one in person because, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's in Scottsdale,
I
poolside.
know.
Are you kidding
I
me?
know. I know.
Um, yeah.
I'm
So
always either in the pool or yeah, I sometimes sneak out and go in the pool. I used to be able to listen to it on my phone. I think I could still do that, but
right. you know what? Like I got these new like Shocks headband earphone things, and I love them. And I'm like, I could sit in a pool and listen to the conference. Like it can be a stone's throw away. I can go in for lunch, come
Yeah.
back out, sit in the pool. Like anyway, I'm
The
down.
secret is sometimes the app doesn't work, but you can always run it off of like, the regular web browser. So you
Okay,
can make it work.
make it work. Yes. So anyway, that's kind of my vibe. So
Right on. No,
some
I
sci-fi,
love it.
get a tan.
So, yeah, no, I mean it's happening. I'll be like 3 shades darker in a month, probably.
I will
So,
not, but I do tan okay. But I bet you tan really well.
yeah, I don't know. It's like my Hungarian ancestry, but my grandfather was a lot darker than, so I end up having more like a sort of semi-olive hue, but I get really dark in the sun
Yeah,
usually. It'll be fun. And it's all completely different, but it's fun. Um, So next time though will be soon. I will start publishing all these, and they'll be just kind of coming out, I
right.
swear. Very soon, probably before. My goal is before the end of. We're in April, right? Not in April. We're in March right now. Before the end of March, before the start of April.
Perfect.
So that's where we're at. And so yeah, who knows what we're going to be talking about next time? We'll find out when we get there, as usual.
Sounds great.
But thank you for joining us once again. We are confronting the complex with Dr. Jamie Kunkle and Dr. Janell Payne. Everybody have a really good day.
Enjoy what's left of your weekend.
Yes, take care.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
Jen. Bye.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Confronting the Complex with Dr. Janell Payne and Dr. Jamie Kunkle. As a reminder, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dr. Jamie Kunkle are solely his own and do not reflect the views, policies, or positions of Gordon Medical Associates or its affiliates. Any content, discussions, or advice shared on this podcast are independent of Gordon Medical Associates and should not be interpreted as a representation of Gordon Medical Associates. Gordon Medical Associates does not endorse or take responsibility for any statements or viewpoints expressed in this podcast. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.